So let's get started. I'm going to start with a disclaimer because some of the things that I'm going to say tonight might frighten you. I'm going to be talking about Jeremiah Savage's Black Sash test. And the Black Sash test, like all of the tests for the higher ranks in our style, is a brutal test, like really scary stuff. And it is actually not allowed to watch a test that's too high of a rank because, the reason that Sifu Brown, my teacher, instituted that rule is that he was teaching, he was running a higher rank test, and one of the best students who was a lower rank, Dr. Utar Natchett, saw the test and tried to quit. He thought, I'll never be able to do that. It scares the bejesus out of me. And he actually tried to quit. But Sifu Brown talked him into staying, and he became our first Black Sash at that school. And he was really into it. So you can imagine what would happen if most people saw these tests. It's strengthening of the will is not a pretty sight. That's what Sifu Brown always says. So you can try to imagine some of the stuff that I explained, but for the most part, just think of it like I'm not going to make you guys do anything that you're not ready for that's dangerous. If you don't think you're ready for something, but I do, I might still have you do it. But if I know that you're not ready for something, I'm not going to put you in a dangerous situation. The Black Sash test is about as dangerous as you can imagine. First of all, this part of the test, so I went back on Thursday and saw the last couple of days of the test, but this part of the test is a week long, and it's every night for several hours, and Jeremiah Savage is doing forms and throws, chin-ah, joint locks, he's doing grappling, he's doing weapons defense, sparring, everything, and just like really getting put through it every single night. And to watch that from an outside perspective is really impressive because you see like all of the training that somebody has put in and how it all kind of comes out in the end. Not that this is the end, but it's the end compared to where you guys are. The attitude of everybody in the dojo when you walk in, it's like here. Like when you walk in this place, you can tell it's a little bit different. There's a different kind of vibration. There's a different kind of energy. And when you walk in during a test, that energy is heightened. It's at the next level. When you're there for a Black Sash test, everybody is just like, this is serious. Like pretty much we're going to war right now. So everyone straighten up, pay attention. And it's really interesting to see the way that when a test is happening, everybody just kind of gets in this different kind of zone. I see it in our kids class. That's actually the biggest jump in awareness and change of attitude is for our tiny kids, 5 to 8, the junior wushu class, because they're in a regular class and they're super focused here compared to where they are in the rest of their lives. But they're still 5 years old, some of them. So some of them are like throwing great technique, facing the mirror and super focused, and then some of them are in the back row just literally spinning around like no idea what they're doing or flopping on the ground. And then we get them back to focus and then they lose it. But on the test, they are there. And it's like a half an hour to 45 minutes of solid focus. And it's everything that they can manage, they give it all to us. That's like the Black Sash test, but for an entire week for several hours every single night. And it wears on you. I remember towards the end of my test, I was like a mummy. I was all taped up everywhere. I had bruises and like everything hurt. And I saw Jeremiah on the first night that I was there, which was like the fourth night of this part of the test. And I looked at him, I thought, he looks pretty good. He looks kind of fresh. And in fact, this was something that everybody who was speaking later on about Jeremiah as part of his test, they said, like, he's just always got so much energy and he's never tired. But I told him, I said, you don't look very tired yet. What's going on? And we were in the changing room, and he was changing his shirt, and he pulls off his shirt, and he's just covered in bruises. His whole body is just everything. But he still had great high spirits, and I'm starting to really scare you guys, I can see. Remember, this is a black Sash test. I should mention, this is what happened with Jeremiah after he'd been practicing for 18 years. So he started practicing the same time as me, and he took a little bit longer to test because he likes to go on vacations to Alaska and be gone for months at a time, and then he has to come back and kind of get back into it. But can you imagine doing anything for 18 years except for brushing your teeth? I mean, most people don't stick around in martial arts for more than 6 months to a year. And this is fun. All the other stuff that's great for you in your life that you don't do. I mean, just the amount of time and effort that it takes to be able to become really great at this is astounding. And Jeremiah absolutely personifies that kind of attitude of, it's going to be tough, and I'm going to do it anyways. He gave a talk that I really loved. It centered on the idea of embracing discomfort. And Jeremiah is kind of like an outdoorsman. He likes to go, he does the polar bear challenge, where he literally goes out to a lake. This is in Michigan, by the way, where it's always cold. He drills a hole in the ice, and he gets in the water. And I will probably never ever do this, but if I did, it would really take some embracing of discomfort. But he does it, and he describes that experience as kind of a metaphor for practice. You get in, and for the first moment, several moments, it's paralyzingly painful. Your nervous system just thinks that you're dying, and it almost shuts down your breathing, and you just you're choking, gasping for breath. And then if you can get beyond that and just sink into it, not actually dive into the water, but allow yourself to be present to what your body and mind are going through, then it just, as he says, it becomes this feeling of euphoria. And that's what practice is like. In the beginning, whether you're doing martial arts or Tai Chi, it is definitely quite overwhelming in the beginning. Even with meditation practice, it's I gotta do what? I'm gonna sit totally still and clear my mind? Impossible. But there's this initial stage of, this is impossible, overwhelming, I'll never get it. And then if you allow yourself to, he mentioned this phrase too, embrace the suck. Just get to the point where you recognize, I'm supposed to be bad, and that's what this period of time is for in my practice, is being bad. You embrace that. You dive into, sink into the process, and you're totally okay with it. You are okay with the discomfort. In fact, you embrace it and you recognize that this is really good for me. And this was my experience when I first started martial arts. I had never really had anything like that in my life that I felt was really challenging for me, and that I felt like I really want to get great at this, and I embraced the challenge, and I actually loved it. The harder the class, the more I felt like I was terrible, the more I loved it. And I thought, this is great. This is so good for me. This is great for my spirit. This is great for my attitude, and it makes me stronger physically and mentally. And you kind of have to have that. And so Jeremiah just kind of described his process, going from being, he described himself as being soft, real soft. And I was definitely the same way when I started practice. And it's not we're just talking about the physical strength and conditioning, that's part of it, but you get mentally strong to the point where things just don't bother you as much. because you've learned to embrace the discomfort and embrace the challenge and really like run towards those things. And so when your attitude says, when it gets tough, I love it. He was literally at the demonstration that he did at the end of his test, he was getting hit in the head. He got hit hard in the head, and he looks at the guy who hit him and he says, I love it. And they just keep sparring. And it's because he actually knows that every time you get hit, whether it's physically and literally or metaphorically, that is what makes you stronger and that is what makes you grow. And that's part of what makes people think that martial artists are a little bit nuts. People look at us and think, you guys are crazy. You want to be in a class where people are punching and kicking you? You put yourself in that situation voluntarily? Yes, because first of all, when it happens enough times, you get used to it and you start to really enjoy it, and you know that like this is what it's about. If I can have the kind of attitude where I'm embracing that discomfort and practice on the mats, then it's going to start to show up in other places in life. And this is like how we become honed and become bigger as human beings through our practice. So he gave that great talk about embracing discomfort and really stuck with me. And I've decided to implement something really big in my own life, which is just super simple, but so exciting and so scary and a little bit dangerous, I feel like. And it's basically like anytime I see an opportunity that I know is good for me to attempt some kind of a challenging thing, I'm gonna know that I should do it by the feeling. It's like a physical feeling that you get where it's like your heart kind of sinks a little bit, or you are scared by it. And so even Sifus get that sometimes, and I've decided that instead of shrinking back from those things, because sometimes it's like I gotta step back and give myself a little bit of time to gear up to kind of handle this situation. Instead, I'm just gonna go right towards it and embrace the discomfort. And so it's literally like, here's a tough conversation that I need to have. I'm just gonna have it right now. That's it. And I already feel so much more free. I feel like, are we losing it again, ma'am? Just stops. Is that the live feed? Is that the live one?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait for you.
Okay.
This is a really important and exciting time in this talk.
I don't know why it stopped.
I don't know either.
My question up to.
Great. Just tell me. And give me a second to think about what I'm going to say for the rest of this talk. Are we back on? Ready? Probably nobody's going to be watching this anyways, but Sarah! Ooh, mystery person. I wonder if it's Jeremiah Savage. Probably he's asleep right now. Yes?
Jeremiah, a teacher here?
He's a student of Sifu Brown's back in Michigan. So I started practicing with my teacher in Michigan at the same time as him. Yeah. If he was here, you'd know it. He's like a fireball with razor blades shooting out of it. Are we getting close, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay, I assume we're going to edit this out of the other. We're back on. Okay, technical difficulties not averted but dealt with. Okay, I don't remember what I was saying. I was talking about Embracing discomfort. Oh yeah. So you have all experienced this, where you have this feeling where it's like, I know that's something that I should do, but I don't know if I can bring myself to do it. And the natural response is to take a step back because it's safe. But to just lean into it and embrace it is very exciting. So I'll let you know how it goes in a couple of weeks. We'll see if I'm still alive. I also want to talk about something that Jeremiah didn't actually say, but I thought he was going to say, and that's also stuck with me. He was talking about something, I can't remember what, and he said, he was talking about time. He was talking about his biggest challenge in practice, being able to find time. And so he's got a full-time job, he's got a young child and a wife and another child on the way. And he was saying his biggest challenge is just being able to get into the dojo enough to really make it work. And yet he finds a way. And he at some point kind of stepped back and he said, I've used my time, or that's what I thought he was going to say. And then he's like, no, that's not the way that I want to say this. And then he said something completely different. But in my head I thought he's going to say, I used my time well. And for some reason that struck me as such like a deep, wonderful way of looking at it. To practice anything for 18 years, just that, the years is something huge, of course. But it's also like consistently. I mean, multiple times a week, hours, sometimes every time you go to the dojo. And it's a significant commitment. And most people don't have time to do it. In fact, somebody, I think, Telva, who's probably coming on retreat this year, she said the best students don't have time to practice. But you make time, and you will, everybody has something going on in life that needs to pull you away from your practice, from your meditation, from whatever else, and from all of the great things that you really know are important in your life. And it's all of the forces that like pull you back into laziness, or the people who are afraid of you growing, and so they try to pull you back, and all of that. Your job, stupid stuff like that. So we all have these things that try to stop us from practicing, but we make time if it's important enough to us. And he said something that made me think of that. Used my time well. Thousands of hours, at least, over the years. And if you think about it, we have a finite amount of time. We only have so many years left, unless science comes up with something really amazing soon. But in those years, we've got, we can only accomplish a couple of really huge things with the time that we have. And to do something like become a black sash and to get great at martial arts is a huge, huge time commitment. But if you're not doing that, what are you doing? And most people in the world, what they do is they watch TV, they go to the bar, they just sit around, they do something that they don't really enjoy, they do something that doesn't really add to them, something that's not constructive. And if you always have this choice between, I'm going to do just what's easy or what I always do, or I'm going to do something that is a serious challenge and something that is really going to take me becoming something more. This is always the choice that that you're supposed to make. But rarely do we actually make it. We always make this one. And if you think of it like using your time well, you're going to be using your time. It's ticking. It's ticking right now. By the end of this, you're going to be 45 minutes older. Did you use your time well? When you sit to meditate, at the end of that time, either you used your time well in your meditation and you did something that improved your concentration focus, that took you to some higher level of spiritual, emotional awareness or whatever, or you just sat there and daydreamed and made your mind lazy. And you can finish work and go home and veg out in front of the TV, or you can come to class. And I think most people, there's some statistic about this or some study, when you're on your deathbed, you're not thinking about all of the stuff that you wish you hadn't done. You're mostly thinking about the things that you wish you had done. And using your time well in a venture like this, I can guarantee you, I'm giving my entire life to martial arts, so certainly at the end of it, I will have either made a huge mistake or a really great decision. But at the end of it, I'm going to be thinking, yeah, I used my time well. I did what I loved every day, and it was always an opportunity for growth, and I did that. And you don't have to teach martial arts to get that out of martial arts. And you don't even have to do martial arts to get that. What I'm talking about is deciding what is going to be the best use of my time. You can look at it, it's overwhelming to think in terms of 18, 20 years. You can do that if you want to, but you can look at it in smaller chunks. Like, what am I doing this year? What am I going to use this year for? At the end of it, what will I have accomplished? What will I have transformed about myself? What have I contributed to society and the world, the people around me? And I think to think of it in those terms of what have I used my time doing? Have I used it well, or has it just run out? I think it's really powerful. So meditation on some level is that, like, concentration on a super tiny scale is going to be the best use of your time, because you're able to recognize, even on a level of thoughts, am I using this time well with what I'm thinking about? And when you are at that level where you can recognize your thought right when it's beginning, then you can decide, yeah, this is worth spending my time thinking about. Or when you start doing something, you're taking some kind of action or inaction, you right at the very beginning can recognize this is something worth doing, this is the way that I want to spend my time, or it's not. And you can always decide. You get to choose. That's the beautiful thing about living in this society that we live in, is you can choose to do all kinds of nonsense. And the issue is we hardly ever recognize the choice. It occurs for us like, I'm just living my life and things happen to me and I'm kind of at the whim of creation. But if you're there and you're aware and you get to choose, this is what I want to do right now in this moment, then you extrapolate over minutes, hours, days, months, years, like moment by moment, they add up to be something incredible. Or something pretty unimpressive, and it's up to you. So what we're going to practice today is that, just being present and being able to choose the thought, because your action is going to come from the thought. So sit comfortably.